Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and tonight I am going to be reviewing how you can get a room in your house prepped and ready to smoke cigars in. Given the fact that I'm doing a lot of house hunting and everything like that, obviously I'm trying to figure out a way to have a more permanent studio space once I find a home and actually make it through the purchasing process with it. I'm not exactly keen on the idea of smoking in my full domicile. But on the flip side, I would like to have a space that is indoor and designated for cigars. And so, you gotta prep that room. You can't just like go in and be like, this is where I smoke. I mean, I guess you can if you don't care about everything you own, getting permeated with cigar smoke. But as you all know, I'm a nerd and I collect paper goods, and so that tends to not be a good combination. But anyway, before we get into all that, why don't we go ahead and smoke a cigar? And today I am going to be smoking one of my standbys. For these solo shows, I really like doing one of my standbys. It's ones that I smoke on the regular, that I know well, and then that way I don't even really have to think about the cigar too terribly much. So today I'm going to be smoking the Villiger 1888 Nicaragua in the Toro size. It is a 6x50 Toro, and it does feature an Ecuadorian Sumatra seed wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Nicaraguan filler. The cigar obviously comes to us from the fine folks at Villiger Cigars, which I was just on a Pulpit Fest Brain Trust call this morning, and quite a bit of discussion about Villiger on that call, but maybe I'll get to that later. Maybe I won't. Maybe that'll be the tease. I don't know. But it's time to cut the cigar. And the official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That is the number 2guyscigars.com. Two Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows Two Guys, but don't worry if you don't. But you can always give them a try. That's the point. I'm telling you about them right now. You can always give them a try if you don't know about them. You're not going to be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and awesome customer service. There's nothing else you could possibly want in a cigar website that 2guyscigars.com does not provide. Please go to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase and tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. So, I was teasing that we had our Pulpit Fest Brain Trust call this morning. We try to have that call every 2 weeks or so. Check in, see what's going on. And I think we got a few things put together today. Got a kind of an itinerary for the weekend kind of figured out. Not anything too terribly strenuous, because obviously for those of you who are attending, we want to make sure that you have plenty of time to go and explore the area, do other things, that sort of thing. But on the flip side, there are a few things that we are going to do, maybe some contests, maybe some games, things of that nature. And so, we wanted to kind of figure out when we're going to do that so that everybody can make sure that they are in the appropriate place at the appropriate time. So, nice raisiny sweetness on the cold draw. And we'll go ahead and get this guy lit up here. So yeah, as I was saying, tonight I wanted to discuss kind of what you have to do to prep a room in your house for smoking cigars. Obviously, you may not be doing this in your actual house. Maybe you have an outbuilding that you're wanting to smoke in. If that's the case, maybe you don't care about smoke and everything like that. The thing about it is, that you know if you want to segregate the smoke from another area, that's where this all kind of comes into play. And so, what you really want to the main goal that you have is that you want to create a pressure imbalance so that the air stays in the room and doesn't permeate through the rest of the facility, the rest of the building. Um, Especially, because you're going to be coming and going out of that room, and so you want to make sure that the air stays in that room. However, you do have to keep in mind that as you leave that room, it's going to trail behind you. There is going to be some carryover, some odor, some smoke, that sort of thing. So, you know, um, that's why I was saying that, like, if you had like an outbuilding or a separate building, then you don't even have to really worry about it. But if for whatever reason, and that also assumes that you're not just going to be a band and just smoke anywhere in your house. I mean, again, I collect paper goods, so I don't really want the smoke damaging, my paper goods. But that's okay. If you are comfortable smoking in your house, then that's fine. But anyway, so the whole goal of it is you have to control where the smoke is going, and you got to provide an avenue for its escape. It's kind of like with me with my ice tent. I have 4 windows and a door in that ice tent. However, when it's really cold out, if you want to close those windows and close that door, the smoke is going to hang out in there. That's where the computer fan system that I've talked about comes into play. Having the computer fans on the 2 vents, one drawing air in, the other facing the other way to point the air out of the tent. It creates that nice little kind of air current along the ceiling of the ice tent so that it draws the smoke out. Um, you're kind of doing the same thing here. So the first thing to look at if you're looking at creating a smoking room in your house is making sure that you have a room that has sufficient escape paths for the smoke outside of the building. So you're going to want something that has doors leading outside, windows leading outside, vents leading outside, something. So you got to have a path for that smoke to actually leave. If you're just, you know, doing just anything, if you're just in a room and there's no way for the smoke to escape, you're hosed. One thing to keep in mind is the type of insulation that you have. The spray insulation tends to get in the cracks, crevices, and really seal up that room better. Whereas the roll insulation, you might have some leakage because smoke, being what it is, smoke, it can find any little crack or crevice and travel through it. It's very similar to water in that regard. So you if there's a path for it to go, it will go that way. Um, that's why I probably I've looked at some houses that have basements, and it's one of those things like, oh, I could set up my studio in the basement. I don't want to set up my studio in the basement because smoke rises, and if there are pathways through the ceiling of the basement, which is obviously the floor of the first floor of the house, it's going to permeate upward into the whole room and everywhere above. So, in an ideal situation, if you're going to smoke inside, you're going to want a top story room. So, if let's say you're a 2 bedroom or a 2 story house, preferably you're going to want an area on the second story. You're also going to want, like I said, the ability to seal off that room. So part of that is going to be taking duct tape, and I'm giving you a wide variety of different options here, but this is for the quick and easy version here. You can get a roll of duct tape, cover the air return vents going into the room, and make sure you're covering the return. Just the return. Don't cover the supply vent, just the return. The return is the vent that draws the air out of the room and sends it into the rest of the house. That is what you definitely want to prevent happening if you're smoking in that room, because otherwise you're sending smoke all throughout the entire house that you're trying to keep smoke free. Once you do that, the smoke is going to want to try and find a path. And so you're going to have to also seal up the door, because the smoke is going to want to go under the door into the hallway or whatever area that door leads to. So if you were doing this with duct tape, then the other half of that is roll up a towel and cover the gap at the bottom of the door. Once the air return is covered and once the gap at the bottom of the door is blocked, open a window, maybe as just like an inch or two. Yeah, I mean, it's not like you have to open it like all the way. You just need to create a pathway for the smoke. I don't know if, for those of you who drive in your car, you don't have to roll the window down fully when you're driving in the car for the smoke to escape your vehicle. You only have to crack the window just a little bit. But that way it gives you, or it gives the smoke a path to leave. The treated air, be it heat or cool, depending on time of year, coming into the room through the supply vent, that's going to push the smoke towards, in this case, the open window, because it's creating, the air movement, and it'll push it towards the open window and push it out. It's kind of like, again, back to the car analogy, Mr. Jonathan's little trick of if you crack the rear passenger window and you crack the driver window, it creates that airflow through the car to where it just pushes the smoke right out the window. So, anyway, that's one way of doing it. You've obviously got, the ability to push it out that way. Now, if you want to step it up a little bit, exhaust fans are an option. You could go as simple as just putting a box fan in the window and facing it outward to where the fan is drawing the air from the room and pushing it out. That's what I've effectively done with my computer fans. I have one that is drawing the air in from the outside, and I have a second that is pushing the air out of the tent. That way, it creates that airflow. But in this case, you have the supply vent pushing, either air-conditioned air or heated air into the room, and then you have this exhaust, this box fan in the window, just pushing air out of the room. So it can be relatively inexpensive. You can obviously get more elaborate with it. You can integrate some exhaust fans into your HVAC system in the ductwork and ceiling and walls of that room. But obviously, I'm trying to give you tips for how you can do this without having to hire, an HVAC specialist or a contractor or something like that. I mean, unless you're one of them. If you are an HVAC guy, you've probably got this all figured out, and you don't even need to be listening to this. But anyway, so you can do that. Now, one thing to keep in mind, in addition to the exhaust fan, that I think would be beneficial is oh damn, I was waiting for it. It was starting to want to go out, but I'm talking too much, obviously. Is an air purifier. Now, look, you can get some really elaborate, expensive ones that are marketed towards cigar smokers. There's one brand that comes immediately to mind. They're fine. They're just expensive. Honeywell makes some air purifiers that are relatively inexpensive. The only thing you have to just keep in mind is you got to keep in mind the amount of area that you're smoking in and the amount of smoke that you're creating. Because these air purifiers are based, the size of them, their workload is based entirely on, how much square footage they're covering and what kind of, smoke output you're putting out. So I wouldn't necessarily say the $50 cheapy Honeywell is great unless you're going to be in there by yourself. If you're going to have your friends over and everything, you're probably going to want a spring for a little bit higher dollar air purifier and use that. But it'll be fine. It relies on a activated carbon to purify the air of smoke and other unwanted smells. So that plus the exhaust fan and sealing off the door and the return vent, that'll help out a lot. You'll get a lot of you'll keep it all relatively confined to that one room. Um, if you want to go absolutely crazy, if let's say your house has become like the de facto lounge, maybe you live in an area where you don't have a lounge and you and your buddies meet up, once or twice a week for cigars, but you typically sit outside and now it's the winter and you miss your friends. If that's the case and you feel and you got some money to rub together and you feel like spending some dough, you can get a separate HVAC system for that room or that building, or whatever. That's probably going to cost you anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000, and you're going to want to have a professional do it unless you are a professional. But obviously, the point of this is to keep the smoky air completely separate from the rest of the air in the house. And by having a separate HVAC system, it would do that. But you know, these are all options. Obviously, for me, in a perfect world, I am looking, when I'm looking at houses or whatever, I'm looking at ones that either already have a pre established outbuilding, like a workshop or something like that, or I'm looking at ones where the backyard would be suitable for me to purchase and install, like a workshop building. I would prefer one that's already standing, so obviously one that already has electricity running to it and everything else, to where then I don't have to worry about running electricity to a new building and everything like that, going through the permit processes and everything that's associated with that. But, if I got to do what I got to do, that'd be nice. But the whole point of this, for me anyway, is to have a permanent studio space. Um, my goal is to have a space that I can truly deck out, have a nice display area for everything, have the equipment all set up to where I don't have to constantly reset it up and take it down or reset it up and take it down. I can upgrade camera systems and have a computer system on hand. Theoretically, if I had a computer system set up and running, instead of having to use iPads for everything, um, theoretically, I might be able to use a different program for remote calls instead of Zoom. I hate Zoom. I mean, I'll just be blunt. Zoom looks like shit on YouTube. It sounds like shit. Um, it's super less than ideal. I'm not a fan of Zoom. But the thing about Zoom is it has been what consistently works for me with this iPad. It records the calls and everything else. I've tried a few other programs, but I haven't. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's my equipment not talking to the iPad properly or what the deal is, but it hasn't worked right. And so I've given up on some of these alternatives for right now, and I've just stuck with Zoom because while it's not great, it does work. But hopefully, if I can get a permanent studio set up, then I can find something better, and I won't have to worry about it. But that's the whole point. That's why I've been doing the research into this, and I figured this is probably something interesting that everybody would want to know. And given the fact that I'm doing a solo episode today, I figured why not? This is something interesting we can talk about. Um, I am I'm digging the 1888 Nicaragua. Like I said, this is one of my go-tos, especially from Villiger. Comes in a variety of sizes. I know they just came out with the Churchill and one other one, but when it debuted, it came out in the Toro, the Robusto, and the Corona. Um, it's got great flavor. It's leathery. and a little earthy and spicy, and it's such a great like everyday smoke for me. It's definitely a go-to in the humidor, and it's just a nice, wonderful cigar for me, and I'm truly digging it. Um, so yeah, that's what we got there. Why don't speaking of Villiger, why don't we go ahead and do this? It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. So, I thought of another point about your cigar rooms, but I'll circle back to that after I'm done with the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report. So, I've actually watched a few things lately. I had a little time, and I did find some time to enjoy myself. So today, actually just today, as I was doing some work for the newspaper, I was sitting at the coffee table, and I'm just kind of working and stuff. And so I threw on a documentary on Disney Plus that has intrigued me since I started seeing previews for it. It's called Jim Henson Idea Man, and it's all about the life of Jim Henson and how he got into puppetry, how he created the Muppets, and kind of the rise of the Muppets, and just kind of how he got going with Sesame Street and everything else. And there's so much. It's a Ron Howard film, so it's very well put together. But it's just so wonderful, and it kind of makes me sad that that Disney doesn't quite know what to do with the Muppets. They've tried a few different things, and it just seems like Disney just doesn't get them. Um, but hopefully something comes of them. But it's funny because they talk about how Sesame Street was a project that he was super into, but after about a year, he apparently Jim Henson did not like feeling boxed in. He didn't like feeling, as though he was trapped in a situation. And so after about a year, he kind of felt like, Sesame Street kind of boxed him into just doing kid stuff, and he didn't want to just do kid stuff. He wanted to showcase that puppetry could actually be for everybody, not just for kids. And one of the things that I thought was interesting too, I learned this, the word Muppet. So Muppet comes from the combination of the word marionette and the word puppet. And because he kind of Jim Henson kind of created this mixture of puppets and marionettes, he called them Muppets. And it kind of became his little staple. And I thought that was interesting. I've kind of always wondered, like, where did the word Muppet come along? So I thought that was fun. But it talked about how all of the studios, even after the success of Sesame Street, all of the studios rejected the uh, the Muppet Show, and it was a gentleman from overseas, I think in England, who took a flyer on the Muppet Show, and it blew up, became huge. And the rest is history. That's when Jim Henson was able to get the Muppet movie, which you know um, is what 45 years old as of well, this comes out on Tuesday. I think it's 45 years old as of like 3 days prior, Saturday. I feel like maybe it was Sunday. Maybe Sunday was the 45th anniversary. But yeah, I mean, you've got the Muppet movie, and then take Manhattan and Caper and all the rest of them, and it's gone on from there, and it's become just this giant, huge brand that eventually Disney purchased, and like I said, they don't know what the hell to do with it. But it's a really great documentary. So if you're interested in Jim Henson and the Muppets, and someone who who found a way to take something and make his way with it, um, Yeah, Jim Henson, Idea Man. I thought that was a really, really good doc. Um, so Saturday evening, I found myself at the drive-in, and I went to the drive-in, and the double feature on Saturday evening was Furiosa, the Mad Max Fury Road spin-off movie, and Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, which admittedly I wasn't super interested in watching Godzilla Kong again. I wanted to watch the second feature on the other screen, which was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. However, the first movie on that screen was Garfield. And so what ended up happening was Furiosa ran so long, I didn't realize how long it was. It ran so long that Ghostbusters was like half over with by the time Furiosa ended. So I figured, screw it, I'll just stick around and watch Godzilla vs. Kong. And guys, I'll tell you what, um, there is, it has been a newfound pleasure of mine, but there is little that I enjoy more than popping the lawn chair, having the radio there, playing the audio from the movie, sitting there at the drive-in with my cold beverage and my candy or my popcorn or whatever snacks I happen to have, and firing up a cigar and just sitting and watching movies at the drive-in with my cigars. Admittedly, I was parked a little close to a guy this time. I was worried that my cigar smoke was going to be blowing at him or, cause him some stress. But the wind, thankfully, helped me out and took it just in front of him. It didn't really hit him. So it worked out great. I was able to sit out there, have myself, what did I have? I had a Perdomo Habano Sun-Grown Churchill, surprise, surprise, and a Christoph Nicaragua throughout my time sitting there and watching the movies. Um, and it was such a great time. It was such a wonderful time, and it didn't hurt that Furiosa was an awesome movie. Now I really enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road with Tom Hardy, the one that this movie is spun off of. So that didn't hurt anything. Obviously, admittedly, it was a little kind of difficult for me to get into in the very beginning, um, but I got into it pretty quick, and it wasn't a difficult movie to process and follow. Chris Hemsworth was just awesome as this guy that you just really really wanted to hate. Um, I'm looking forward to Furiosa hitting streaming so that hopefully I can do a double feature of that with Mad Max Fury Road and kind of see, because I feel like there were some characters that were introduced in Furiosa that like were in uh, Mad Max Fury Road, and I feel like it's one of those things that if you watch them both side by side or back to back, you maybe get a little something out of it. So I'm gonna do that. But yeah, that was my evening at the drive-in on Saturday. And Godzilla vs Kong. I think I've talked about that on the show before too. It was fun. It's Godzilla and Kong just beating the shit out of an evil version of Godzilla and an evil version of Kong, and Mothra's in there, and it's all the fun of the giant monster movie. It's admittedly an Americanized version, so Godzilla's a good guy, and everything, but it's a good time. It's a good time. Now, if you want a movie where Godzilla's not the good guy, um, I've talked about Godzilla minus one on the show before, and Godzilla minus one is a great movie. Not just a great Godzilla movie, but just a great movie. There's a lot of story packed into that movie, and it just happens to feature Godzilla. Um, but Godzilla minus one is now available on Netflix. It popped up, I believe, on Saturday, just like randomly. Nobody even knew it was coming. It just showed up. And all the nerds and the various social media things that I follow were just flipping out like, "Oh my God, it's there! It's there! We can watch Godzilla -1 now." And so if you have Netflix, head on over to Netflix, give Godzilla -1 a shot. It's also fun, but it's a good movie. It is in Japanese. I don't believe it's dubbed, so you'll have to read subtitles. But it's a really good movie. I'm hoping that they put out the version that they released at the last minute before it left theaters, which was the black and white version. I wanted to see it in black and white, but I saw it in color, and like I said, great movie, really really good. Um, but I don't know if the black and white version is out on Netflix or not. Um, and then the other bit of entertainment that I had from this weekend. So Friday, I went and saw comedian, cigar smoker, and previous cigar pulpit guest Dusty Slay at the factory in St. Louis. And Dusty, had a show out at the factory, and he crushed it. A lot of new material. I had watched his. He does have a special on Netflix. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he has a special on Netflix, and I was kind of worried that we were going to get some recycled material from that. But all this stuff was I had never heard it before, so it was new material, new material, and it was funny. It was good. It was a lot of fun. And after the show, I met him backstage. We chatted for a little bit. I want to give a shout out to a couple of gentlemen that I met there. They also have a podcast, and I I ended up meeting them. Let me see. Of course, they don't have their names in the about section on their iTunes page. Oh, wait. So we have AJ and Mike. They are the hosts of The Confused Breakfast. Oh, and Jean Claude Van Hams. I don't I don't know him. But anyway, um anyway, there's a podcast called The Confused Breakfast, and basically they cover movies and they go all deep into movies. And um they were some funny dudes. They sat out with Dusty and I, and there was a little group of us, and we sat out, and we ended up sitting out back of the factory having cigars. Dusty had brought some cigars. I had some in my car. You know, we sat out back, and these gentlemen, if they'd had cigars before, I don't think they had cigars before. I taught them how to cut and light their cigars and smoke them. They smoked about half. It's realistically about what you'd expect from a brand new cigar smoker. And admittedly, they were, given. Dusty gave them a couple of cigars, and they were toros, but I feel like they were probably more like 6 by 54. They were bigger toros, and let me tell you, it was a serviceable cigar. It's probably not one I would have given somebody for their very first smoking experience, but hey, you know what? They took it like a champ. They tried it, and they participated, and it was what it was. And they didn't like make a show about putting it out or something like that. Oh God, damn it! Didn't make a show about putting it out. They just damn cicada landed on my leg. You guys are lucky I didn't just scream into the microphone. But they just let them just casually go out, and that's the way to do it. That's the way to let your cigar go out, is just to lightly just kind of let it drift away. So they did well. But they were funny dudes. So check out The Confused Breakfast. Um, Now, admittedly, I did bring wireless mics with me, with the thought that maybe I could try and get, you know, 10 minutes or so with Dusty just to kind of have in the show here. But it's one of those things where the night just kind of went pleasantly, to where you didn't want to interrupt it with work, you know? You didn't want to make it a thing. You just kind of wanted to enjoy the event, enjoy the experience and not muddy it up with, "Hey, can you do my podcast with me?" That kind of thing. So I didn't. I didn't do it. I let it go. I did talk to Dusty about how we're going to have him back on. He agreed. Because the last time he was on, he had had surgery and he couldn't smoke. So this would be, if he comes back on, that would be his first appearance where he actually could smoke with me. Um, so yeah, I look forward to hearing from Dusty to see if we can put together some dates, that maybe would work for him to come onto the show with me. Otherwise, that is what I have been entertained by lately. Um, maybe if you guys have suggestions about things to check out, things that you're being entertained by that you think I need to check out, shoot me a line, let me know, and I'll check them out. Um, okay, so I'm still digging the Villiger 1888 Nicaragua. Um, Obviously it's smoking slow because I'm talking so much. It normally, smokes a bit faster than this, but it's kind of nice to get some time out of it and enjoy it. So we got that going on. Got a little time to kill here. I don't want to speed walk through this thing here. I mean, we covered smoking indoors as best I could. Oh, there was a point that I wanted to circle back to, and I was going to circle back to it after the Villiger segment. So when you're outfitting your cigar room, there's a reason that cigar lounges use like leather and wood for their furniture. Don't have things that collect and keep the smoke. So don't have carpet, don't have rugs, don't have fluffy pillows, don't have any of that bullshit because all of that is just going to soak up that smoke and hold it in the room and thus hold odor. So, ideally, leather furniture or some sort of soft, or not soft, but like some sort of wood furniture, something that you can wipe down, is going to be the best possible furniture for you. And then in terms of the flooring, if you can get by without rugs and carpet, and just have a solid floor, that would be the best possible option for you. But just keep in mind, whatever is in that room is going to be exposed to smoke. It's going to be exposed to possibly a lot of smoke over, a lot of years, however long you're smoking in there. And so, whatever's in there is ultimately over time going to be smoke damaged. If you've ever gone to a cigar lounge that's been in business for like 20 years and then maybe they're going to repaint and so they start taking stuff off the walls, you can tell very quickly where items were on the walls, and it's got that film, it's got that smoke. So I mean, that's the other thing. If you want to avoid that, meticulously clean. You can meticulously clean your room, which I would probably say cleanliness is, what is it, next to godliness or whatever I think is the phrase. So keep in mind that keeping your cigar room clean is going to ultimately make it last longer and make it more pleasant for you. And the other thing about smoking actually in your house, keeping one room of your house kind of sealed up and isolated and everything. If you're thinking about resale, um, it is going to hurt your resale unless you find a way to really mitigate the smoke, push it out, and get that room cleaned up. It's one of those things that odor lingers, man. The odor lingers. It hangs out. So you're gonna want to make sure that you're doing the best you can to keep that room cleaned, um, so that if you ever do sell the house down the road, you don't have a problem with resale because of one room of the house. The other thing to keep in mind too, this is something that I at least try to do with my vehicle. I used to do it more. I haven't really done it as much lately, mostly due to finances. But in a perfect world, like I get my car detailed one time a year. Like just go in, spend the $250, get the car really deep cleaned and detailed so that it kind of gets a lot of that smokiness and ash particulate and everything else out of it. kind of get it back to clean and baseline. Um, like I said, finances have not really been the most conducive for doing that lately. But it's one of those things where maybe with your cigar room, if you're not going to do the deep cleaning, and you know you're not going to do the deep cleaning, um, maybe consider hiring a cleaning service to come once a month and do a deep clean on the room. That way, it's being cleaned on the regular so that you're at least maintaining it and not letting it get too terribly nasty. Um, you know, again, think of it like your car. Regular maintenance makes it last longer. In this case, regular cleaning will make that room last longer and will ultimately help you out in the event of a resale. Because unless you're selling to another cigar smoker who isn't going to give a shit, you're probably going to have somebody that walks in and goes, "Oh, this smells like cigar and old cigar, and I don't want that." And let me tell you, somebody who's walked through some houses here lately, odors are the first thing you notice, and they are typically off-putting. I've only walked through, I think, maybe two, where the odor that it's not even odor. Odor has a negative connotation to it. Aroma has a positive connotation to it. And so the houses that I walked, the two that I was going to refer to, they had positive aromas, whereas the other ones had negative odors. So make sure that your house avoids the odor and get your cigar room cleaned. Um, anyway, guys, fucking good coffee. You're going to want to get some fucking good coffee to go with your cigars. It pairs wonderfully, gives you that nice bit of pep in your step in the morning, and comes in a variety of flavors. The Lounge Blend is designed to pair with all types of cigars. However, Nick over there at my fucking good coffee, .com. He's got all kinds of different flavors to fit your coffee palate, give you something that you're going to enjoy. And realistically, they all pair with cigars. It's just that the Lounge Blend is designed to pair with all cigars. So, obviously you're not going to want like a super, well, maybe you will. I don't know. I don't know what you like doing, but I was going to say maybe you don't like having a ridiculously dark roast with a Connecticut shade first thing in the morning, but maybe you do. Maybe you like your coffee to overpower your cigar. I don't know. Um, but head on over there to fuckinggoodcoffee.com and look it up. Give it a try. He's got subscriptions that you can do. I mean, it's all good. So go over there. Don't be a fucker. Try the fucking good coffee and start your morning off right. Otherwise, in terms of the socials, I'm available on Instagram at the Cigar Pulpit. I'm available on Facebook where I have a page, but I also have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You guys can get in on that, and that's a lot of fun. A lot of information getting shared in there. Twitter/X and YouTube where you can watch this. Otherwise, just you know, wherever finer podcasts are found, you can listen to me. Um, Yep, this is what I got going on. I didn't I thought that the cigar room thing would actually last a little while longer, but apparently it didn't. Um, so um, I am digging the hell out of my 1888 Nicaragua. So I highly recommend it. If you guys don't have Villiger in your area, um, you know, check them out on their website. They do have a store locator, and you can give them a try. But Renee is being extraordinarily cool working with us as it relates to Pulpit Fest. Villiger is the headline sponsor of Pulpit Fest. And so, I want to once again publicly thank Renee for his support for that. We're going to be having a conference call here shortly, next few days, to discuss, kind of how to integrate Villiger into Pulpit Fest and really give them, their due. But it's coming together well. It's coming together well. So If you are going to be one of the people attending Pulpit Fest, I think you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. And, we'll go from there. So, anyway, I hope you guys learned a little something today. I will strive and endeavor to have a guest for Friday's show. And hopefully we can get working on building out the calendar a little bit. Summer is I swear, things just never end. Things just never end between house hunting and everything else. But then, this summer I'm getting some extra time with my son, and that is not something I'm complaining about. So I want that for the record. I'm definitely not complaining about extra time with my son. It does complicate things a little bit as it pertains to my schedule. It gets a little tighter, but that's okay. I'll make it work. I'll stay up late and work on things, and we'll make it happen. But anyway, I will endeavor to have somebody on with me on Friday. So anyway, guys, I hope this was educational. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. So this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Stay safe. Stay smoky. Thanks, guys.